I'm Ella Wingy. I'm here with Matthew Gahn of Black Mats Wine Club. We are coming to you from San Francisco, and we have a little wine pack to go over for August.
Yep, a little example of what club members get. This is actually for local delivery. The more statewide members get a different slightly package, but it's the same things inside. We're here in San Francisco, so forgive the wind noise. That is what San Francisco is like. It's the middle of August. Mark Twain once said there's no winter colder than a San Francisco summer. We're experiencing that right now. Golden Gate Bridge right behind us, Alcatraz over there, this is the bay, and this is such an influencing factor on California wine. The cool winds coming in and also the fog in the morning, and it's amazing how temperatures change. And we do have a California wine to give an example of what the different styles of wine California can produce.
Yeah, I came from an hour south, Matthew came from an hour north. It was 80 degrees and sunny. I imagine it was roughly that in Petaluma.
Yeah, so for international listeners, that's 27 degrees. It's pretty warm. Except here, it's about 15 or 16 degrees, and just amazing the influence the Pacific Ocean has on the climate of California, and that really creates the concept of terroir in California. Everything changes according to ocean influence, as well as the mountains as well. You can see mountains in the background can protect the cooling influence as well.
So we have 3 wines to taste, or actually no, we're not going to taste today. It's going to be a little faster version.
We're just going to look at them.
Yes.
And just admire the beauty of the label and the style of. We can still talk about the style of the wine. And so we're going to start with Switzerland. And I have the little tech sheets as a little reminder of what I present with the wines. Everyone gets in an envelope, gets one of these tech sheets for each wine, and also a playlist for each month that's available on Spotify. And August playlist has been very successful and very popular with some of my avid members, including my wife and a friend of his, who really admired this playlist.
That's exciting. Why do you think? What about it?
Well, I've been trying to kind of expand and experiment and go for some really contemporary music, more kind of dance or tech music, but not too aggressively so. Just kind of really like you're driving along, having a lot of good fun listening to that music, just uplifting in the summer sunshine of California and elsewhere.
Great. Well, first wine is from Switzerland.
Yes, and we featured this as a wine of the week a few weeks ago, because Swiss wine is very unusual to find outside of the country. Switzerland is a very affluent country, and it's also a very expensive country to visit, as I have found some of the costs in the past. They serve the wine in little, like 100 milliliter carafes, which is very nice to touch, and then you realise that 100 milliliters is like 20, 25 euros, or the equivalent thereof, and you're like, oh, okay. But Swiss wine is very good, just a little overpriced, but because Switzerland's so affluent, they don't need to export the wines. And so only 1% of Swiss wine is exported. So it's all for domestic consumption, and also because there's a lot of tourism in Switzerland, for skiing, for influence, for instance. And so there's no real need to export the wines. And so very, very little of it comes out. So it's very, very exciting to see a Swiss wine here in California, which is available in the wine club.
So the 100 mils would be 20 plus euros. Is that Swiss wine, or is that wine? That's, okay, wow.
Yeah.
So even their like local...
Their local wine is expensive because the domestic market is prepared to pay that much money for it.
So how much is this bottle?
And this is just $20-something dollars here in the US. Yeah, it's a really good example of a more affordable Swiss wine that's available outside of the country. And you met the importer, Paul.
Oh.
The lovely French guy who only imports wines made by his friends.
Is this made by his friends?
It's made by one of his friends, of course. And so it's kind of a running joke. Every wine he gets out, he says, and this was made by one of my friends. This is one of them. But he went to college in Dijon, in France, and he studied with this guy, who's a winemaker in the Valais region of Switzerland, which is not too far from Geneva, just a little further inland. Very hilly, very, very steep slopes. And that's another reason why Swiss wine can be quite expensive, because it's very difficult to make wine there because of the steep slopes and the rocky soils as well. So, and the grape variety is Slyvaner, which is a grape variety you find in Alsace, parts of Germany such as Franken, and here in Switzerland as well. And Slyvaner, I think, is a very underrated grape variety. Kind of similar to Riesling, but not as high in acidity, maybe a bit more like Pinot Gris from Alsace, so a bit more body, bit more weight. I find it quite earthy in its characteristics, and I think this wine is a lot of fun.
Yeah. And you were saying most of the wine from Switzerland is actually kind of close to that German border, but this one isn't, right? It's kind of on the like south.
Yeah, there are different regions in Switzerland. This one is a bit nearer to the French Alps, but you have others which are right next to the German border as well. And so Switzerland has a real rich winemaking culture, but it's one that's not really known outside of the country because so little of it is exported.
Wow, crazy. All right, second we have one from California.
Yeah, so now we're here in California. And this is coming from all over the place, although mainly Lodi, but also Mendocino, also Dry Creek Valley, and Clarksburg, which is right next to Lodi. So it's coming from all over the place. The producer is called Rootdown Cellars, which are based in Berkeley. And Ella and I were there a few weeks ago tasting, but not actually at this winery, but there's quite a few urban wineries in Berkeley, and it's a really weird blend. And so the winery is called Rootdown Cellars, but this is the SOK label because the winemaker's catchphrase is it's okay. And so this is a blend, and I have to look at my tech sheet for this because it's quite an eclectic blend. It's Pinot Blanc, Chenin Blanc, Grenache Blanc, and also Riesling, and then also Piquette. And Piquette is a style of wine which is kind of leftover wine or leftover grape juice from the fermentation, which traditionally in France was just kind of drunk for local consumption. And it's become a bit of a trend in California to have this leftover grape juice made into wine. And so there's another producer called Grenachista who makes a Piquette. And so it's a very light-bodied, low alcohol, high acid,
100%.
almost cider-like wine. Yeah, they make it 100%. This one is just 8% of the Piquette. So this leftover really high acid wine. And so this is 2020, so it's really young, and it's made into this really fresh, youthful style, which is designed to be drunk now, which is great, I think.
Yeah, I'm intrigued.
And it's a funny shaped bottle.
It is.
You can see there's a little bit of colour to the wine as well from skin contact, and kind of an unusual label as well, kind of a standout label. We're talking recently, and it's on my blog post, about how labels can be a really good selling point. I actually had a wine club member sign up yesterday who said the pretty labels don't always work for me. I don't always make the best choices based on pretty labels. So I'm here not just to give you pretty labels, but the good juice that's behind those pretty labels as well.
Yes. Super cool. And that comes from a lot of warm regions.
It's not
from here.
Yeah.
It's typically
and so,
warmer
I mean, the alcohol is just, well, it's 13.08%.
I know, I like that.
Yeah, very specific. Kind of a trend here in California for producers to label their wine alcohol as closely as possible, just to annoy the authorities, who are always very demanding, very bureaucratic. Actually, in Europe, you're only allowed to label them 13.5. You can't do these specifics. So another California thing is that, we can do this, so we'll do it. And this is a youthful, fun white wine.
And third, we have one from Greece, which we actually just did the trivia on yesterday, for today.
Yep, so this is the theme of the week, Greek white wine. Ella's going to do all the pronunciation, because Greek wine is so easy to pronounce. The producer's fairly easy, if you can
Domaine Tatsis.
Domaine Tatsis, yeah. So that bit's relatively easy. Then the wine itself is called Xiropotamos. Which could be wrong, could be right. Greek wine is not the easiest to pronounce, and you'll see on this label there's a lot of Greek typography. They use a different alphabet for the recipe. But that's a sign of their tradition, their history, their culture, that Greece is its own place. And again, I've posted about this on my blog about Greek wine and how it has a lot of history, going back thousands of years to ancient Greece. But it's only really in the last 30 to 40 years that Greek wine has come back into its own, because under Turkish rule, wine production was not allowed except for domestic consumption, and then there was the Greek military dictatorship, which really helped bring Greece back. But since it's during the EU in 1986, like Spain and Portugal, wine production has become much higher quality. And this is an example of a producer from from Macedonia, so just below the North Macedonia border, which is a separate country. The two countries have reached an agreement what they can call their Macedonian regions, and this is Central Macedonia, and the grape is Slyvaner, which is really local, important black colour and as little tannin as possible. So it is possible to make white wine from Blanc grape varieties. This is really unusual. It's the only white Xiropotamos I've ever tried, and I thought it was really delicious. There's a little bit of texture from the skins, but not so much.
How white did it look in the glass?
I would say it was gold rather than
Gold, okay.
yeah. So a little colour coming from the grapes and a little tannin, but very gentle.
Huh. I like that they call it Blanc de Noir.
Yeah, the Blanc de Noir, so a white wine from black grape varieties,
Yeah.
as you would make in Champagne or other traditional method sparkling wine styles of wine.
So fun. Can't wait to try these.
Yeah, and just 12.5%. And my food pairing here is zucchini and feta balls, and I think that zucchini being courgette for my European listeners. And I think that would just be a really, really good pairing. Kind of that Greek feel to it with the feta cheese and the meze, just almost tapas style, Mediterranean styles, and the high acidity of the wine. Because Xiropotamos has a naturally high acidity, which is really expressed in this white wine, as it also is in the red wine. It's a really good food pairing.
Awesome.
Yeah, so unfortunately we're not trying these wines today. I'm about to teach Ella for WSET in the St. Francis Yacht Club, which is right next to us. So we're just doing a kind of, this is what's in the wine club this week. And one other thing, this is the natural wine club. So you can see that these wines are a bit funky, but unusual, a bit different for those who are a bit more adventurous in their wine choices. And so this is actually going to a wine club then here in Petaluma, or in Petaluma when I get back home. And just a little bit different, the different wine clubs. Some are a bit more traditional, but this one's a bit more celebrated.
And it's called You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman.
Exactly.
So look her on the website.
Aretha Franklin inspired. So, cheers.
Enjoy.